From UFOs to psychic powers and government conspiracies, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now, or learn the stuff they don't want you to know. Here are the facts. War is a tragic business, one which virtually guarantees widespread casualties and immense destruction. The smallest events can trigger a war. In modern times, nations have attempted to define internationally accepted rules for war. Through agreements such as the Hague Laws and the Geneva Conventions, the United Nations has built formal guidelines for armed conflict. Violations of these laws, such as genocide, are considered war crimes. Yet not all violations are so clear-cut. Consider the false flag attack. Here's how it works. Combatants in war are often required to wear insignia depicting their allegiance, but a military vehicle, organization, or individual might hide their own insignia or even replace it with their enemy's symbols to infiltrate enemy lines. And this could go even further. What if one side in a war disguises itself and attacks as someone else, such as the Red Cross? Or what if a country uses a false flag attack to wage war on itself? Here's where it gets crazy. False flag attacks aren't as implausible as they might sound. While conspiracy theories swirl around some conflicts, for example, the inside job theories about everything from Pearl Harbor to the 9/11 bombing or the 1898 destruction of the USS Maine, there have also been verified false flag attacks and many more suspected examples. In the 1931 Mukden incident, the Japanese army allegedly sabotaged a Japanese-owned railway in China and then used the explosion as an excuse to invade. Today, this is widely accepted as a false flag attack. Historians have also uncovered evidence of false flag attacks by the Nazi Party, both during the burning of the Reichstag in 1933 and in Operation Himmler. In the 1950s, Israel's defense minister was forced to resign in the wake of an operation known as the Lavon Affair, wherein operatives conducted bombings in Egypt in hopes of discrediting the Egyptian government. In the early 1960s, the United States allegedly planned a false flag attack codenamed Operation Northwoods. Under this plan, the military would commit acts of terrorism as a way to drum up public support for a war on Cuba. This plan allegedly included bombing targets in the United States, killing Cuban nationals, and hijacking airplanes. In Body of Secrets, author James Bamford claims the plans for Operation Northwoods were drawn up by the Joint Chiefs of Staff and presented to Defense Secretary Robert McNamara in 1962. Fortunately, the plans were rejected. But were they America's only brush with false flag tactics? Consider the USS Maddox incident. Historians still debate whether this was a purposeful plot to drum up support for a war in Vietnam or simply a miscommunication. Declassified documents have shown that senators of the time questioned the Maddox claims, and evidence suggests the NSA may have faked some data to cover up earlier mistakes. There's an important distinction here, and it's one of intent. A false flag attack is one in which operatives purposefully try to lay blame at someone else's doorstep. Unfortunately, the fog of war, the inability to communicate quickly and accurately during conflicts, can all too often result in disastrous mistakes, from friendly fire to accidental bombings. While false flag attacks are not legal under the laws of war, they have certainly occurred across the globe and throughout history, although perhaps not as often as some theorists might believe. It can be difficult to determine the difference between a false flag attack or an honest mistake. And that's no surprise. After all, if a government or a military launches a false flag attack, it's almost certainly something they don't want you to know.
As a matter of fact, more than a decade later, in retrospect, it seems that that day in September was the beginning of a great many things, including wars on foreign soil, including chronic health problems for first responders, and the emergence of an increasingly security-oriented and surveillance-obsessed first world nation.